Hello, everybody. Sam Davidson here with MEA Worldwide. We are inside, staying quarantined and safe. And please, guys, please do the same. I have such an exciting interview for you today. I've been looking forward to it all week. I have Perry Mattfeld from In the Dark, who plays none other than Murphy Mason, here via Zoom. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for hanging out with me via Zoom.
So, In the Dark has become one of my favorite shows, and I of course discovered it on Netflix.
Yeah.
What has it been like to get that Netflix influence, and do you think it really helped, bring more episodes and bring more awareness to the show?
I definitely think so. I mean, even when we're making the show, I feel like the show is made to binge. Like it's just a binge show, and I'm really glad that the CW has allowed it to go on to Netflix after, because that is where a lot of people have found it. And that is kind of where I feel like we got a little bit of a following. And I hope that brought more people to watch it live season 2. I mean, I definitely prefer to binge things as well, but I hope that people were willing to sit through a few commercials and watch live.
And what's so exciting, I mean, this is such a scary time, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but
Yeah.
I mean, during this time for you, the premiere date got moved up, which was so exciting for fans, and then you also found out you guys got picked up for season 3 semi-recently.
I've had to say that multiple times. I feel very, very, very lucky right now, because I do have some job security in knowing that we get to make more.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I mean, amidst that's been a wonderful silver lining, was bumping our premiere up over a month, and knowing that even when season 2 ends, there's more.
You know what I've been thinking about? I'm gonna ask you too, how you've been doing through quarantine and all of that, but it made me think about what people like Murphy's quarantine would be like, and those that are disabled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you think she would be doing? And I know that you're so in touch with the blind community, like they don't really get to necessarily enjoy Netflix and, binge all of these things. Like, have you considered that at all during this time? Since I'm sure your mind is so much more open now to that other side of things than it was before.
That's a great question. Well, Lori Burnson, who is the real life inspiration of Murphy and the inspiration of In the Dark as a whole, she's actually been such a great advocate in making sure that people from the blind community do have access to In the Dark. So it is available with audio, forgetting the name of it, but it does audio description. So it does have some description for people who are visually impaired as they're watching. So in a way, I feel like people like Lori, at least from what I've talked to, she's kind of thriving right now, because she is at home where she's most comfortable with her own space, right? Usually people from the blind community are the most comfortable in familiar spaces. So I'm sure she's able to catch up on everything.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that In the Dark is one of those things that you can watch right now while you're home.
That's awesome. So season 2, so excited. It feels in a lot of ways this is where the story starts.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where it changes. What new sides of Murphy are we going to get this season that we didn't see in season 1?
Well, I've said before, I mean, I definitely think we had to show Murphy, I don't know if it's at rock bottom, but you kind of needed to see the worst versions of her to set up a place for us to go, to also understand, who she is. And I think multiple things that happen to her in season 1 do kind of shape how she changes in season 2. She's not perfect, obviously. She doesn't overnight, become a nun. But I think one thing in particular is falling in love with Max in season 1. That's, I think, definitely her first love. And I definitely think that's a part of what allows her to be a little more vulnerable in season 2. And we do kind of start seeing her break down. She's not resistant as much, I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
But still as self-destructive and messy as she always will be for a while. But she's not as resistant, and I think that love story is a part of what has just completely opened her up.
And talking about Max, you know, we do know that he is going to be in season 2,
Oh,
which
of course.
yeah, I mean, because you know, you end the season, it's like, oh, God, I hope that guy comes back. In what capacity can you tell us that we will be seeing him in this season, and will we get to see their love story evolve?
Um, every decision that if Tyson was Murphy's heart in season 1, if Tyson was what drove her decisions, her, you know, her gut, her motivation, her drive, Max is that in season 2. So everything that she does, regardless of the risks or what it, you know, what it puts up, the risks that it puts her closest friends at, it's for Max.
Yeah.
So whether they're together or apart, I won't say, but it's him, you know, through and through.
And speaking of Tyson, his story is what started this whole thing. In what ways will his memory be kept alive in the second season? You know, or I'm sure it's not going to be as though we just forgot. I mean, I've seen most of the episodes. We just don't forget about him. Like, how to carry that story around still?
Well, I think Murphy's involvement with Dean throughout all of season 2 is definitely tainted, right? She's very angry at him, hates him. So that definitely continues through season 2, but she didn't get him back at the end of season 1. Everything she did, even though I do think she got some closure at the end of season 1, it didn't bring him back. Yeah. So we do kind of close that like murder mystery chapter, but Tyson is the reason why she kind of is in this position that she is now. And of course, you know, she mentions him multiple times throughout the season, but we have kind of closed the murder mystery. It didn't bring it back.
And speaking of Dean, can we talk about the kinds of consequences that he does or doesn't face this season? And because there's so many shows that they don't address the legal aspect of things, like, oh, you recorded something on the phone, but is that admissible in court? You know, you don't know. And the show does start to address that, but what can you tell us about the part that Dean will play in this second season?
I remember when Corinne, our incredible producer and showrunner, she said that in Chicago, if an audio recording was not what's the word,
consent.
Consent. If the person who was being recorded did not give consent to being recorded, that cannot be used. That is admissible evidence. And so obviously that's like Murphy's fear. Everything he did in the finale was to get that recording. But I am happy that we kind of addressed that, and that's something that's you know, fascinating, that is specific to the state of Illinois, which is interesting. I'm not going to say kind of what happens to Dean, but I will say part of why I love Rich is obviously so incredibly talented, but part of why I love that character is because even as, you know, he's this villain, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He doesn't. And in his deepest of hearts, he loves Chloe with his all, his everything. And we as the audience know that. And I think Murphy becomes as much as angry as she is at him, she knows how much he loves his daughter. And so it's a very interesting villain because, you know, he and Murphy are like so loyal to a fault, but the consequences he faces and kind of what he spirals in season 2, which is awesome to watch. But at the end of the day, you know, he's a devoted father and he loves his daughter and he'd do anything for her.
Yeah.
Good people making bad decisions. I like, you know, I've heard that a couple times about In the Dark, and I think that's super accurate. It's people with the good heart just screwing up.
Yeah. And how does Murphy's relationship with Chloe continue or halt throughout the second season? Because Murphy's character was such an important part of Chloe's life. She became.
And Callie has grown so much. She's so talented. I'm so glad that we have her as part of the show as well. But she definitely is like a heavy hitter in season 2. Huge storyline, which is so awesome. But that relationship between Murphy and Chloe is a really important part of the story in showing that, you know, that that's Chloe is a huge part of the audience seeing that good part of Murphy, right? That tender part of Murphy that we root for. And we get to see that when she and Chloe are together.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, definitely very present, and it's a very, very interesting arc of, you know, how they kind of figure out what's next.
And there's also Nia still, who's kind of the big bad. She's
Nia. Mm-hmm.
What does your relationship kind of look like with Nia this season? And do you, in a character like that, you still somehow see some humanity to her, even though she does all of these terrible things?
There is a huge shock surprise about Nia. I'm not going to say what it is, but it was a shock to me when I read it in the script. We don't get the scripts until, you know, we're about to start that episode, so we don't know how the season's play out ahead of time. We don't, which is awesome because it's fun for us to get to experience the show, you know, as it's turning out. But there's a huge shock about Nia that I was not expecting. I did not see that coming. She's kind of someone that I think tosses Murphy around a little bit. Murphy seems to be pretty fearless, but another really strong, powerful female shakes her around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, if you're around for money, no pun.
So also, we love Pretzel.
Everyone loves Pretzel. I adore Pretzel.
And it's the same dog from season 1 to season 2, or did you guys switch it up?
Unfortunately, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, Levi, who did play Pretzel for season 1, she did get sick. She's okay. But it's not recommended for her to be working. You know, the hours are long. It's a very rigorous work schedule. So she's still able to stay involved. She's very happy with that. And her trainer, V, who is incredible, has been able to bring Levi every once in a while on set just to around and stay to us. But her brother, Levi's third trip, was able to step in for season 2.
Aww.
And of course, have a, you know, crazy bond with that dog now too. But even if Trip was working as Pretzel, Levi was still able to be there and support her brother and give him some, you know, acting tips and kind of show him the ropes. It is, you know, people think we have multiple dogs, but it is just one dog that, you know, works full time.
Yeah. And there's new characters this season, which is always hard to put into a well-oiled machine, but I think that they fit in really well. What can you tell us about any of these new characters and how they shake things up and change, you know, Murphy's life?
I'm biased in saying that I think I have the best cast on television, but I do. The new actors that we got this season blew me away. I mean, we have two in particular that bring some serious comedy to the show, which is awesome. Matt Murray, he plays Jane, Dean's new partner. He's fantastic. We have Theo Bott, who is playing Josh. He's our IRS investigator this season. He found out about the show through an advertisement for casting in the visually impaired community. And I'm so glad that he found it and signed up to audition because we got him.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so, so much for chatting with me today. This really is such an amazing show, you guys. If you haven't seen the first season, please go binge it on Netflix because it's so worth it. And the second season is currently out right now on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on the CW. So
you can also watch the episode for free on the CW after it airs live. So people that don't have an antenna, I know that, you know, for many of us seems a little dated to have an antenna.
Yeah.
But you can watch for free on the CW app.
Yeah, which is awesome. And also, you know, if you don't have cable and you want to wait to binge, CW always puts their shows on Netflix right after the season's over.
Which is awesome and bingeable, and you get them all at once.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you. And thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
And fight on.
Fight on. Thank you so much. I keep wanting to call you Perry.
You can.
You are Perry. I'm like Perry Murphy, Perry, like same person.
I go by both. I go by both.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye.